of the Constitution makes provision for uh, the protection of the dignity of the person. All right. So in this instance, we're talking about the fact that every person, whether you're a child, an adult, male or female, irrespective of your background or your status, so long as you're a human person, you're a Nigerian citizen, this section guarantees or provides that a person is entitled to the dignity of his person. All right. Again, what then would be a violation of this section? Of course, you know that on no account should anybody be denied of his right to dignity or be subjected to any form of, inhuman treatment, in form of slavery or servitude. And nobody should be forced into compulsory, labor or some activities that would be of such a degrading nature that would warrant this violation. All right. But despite the provisions of this section, the law also make very express provision for some instances where this right may be taken away from you or maybe circumscribed, as the case may be. For example, if you belong to the armed forces, of course you understand that if you belong to the armed forces, by which I mean maybe the police, the army, the navy, as the case may be, you may be required to, be involved in some activities which may not necessarily, which may to some extent be regarded, as undignifying, but the constitution also make provision that if you belong to the armed forces and you are required to do some things, to carry out the functions, required of you as a member of the armed forces, you cannot now complain that your right to human dignity has been taken away from you, or you have been subjected to some level of slavery or servitude, as envisaged by this law. Again, you also bear in mind that maybe, let's say, being a child, a member of a family, you are required to carry out some activities or some functions that is required of you as a child. Can the child now be complaining that the parents is subjecting him or her to some form of slavery or servitude? The answer is no, because you are required to carry out some functions or some responsibility by virtue of the fact that this person stands in locus parentis, for that child. So this is one of the instances where you also provide a legitimate exception to what this section provides for. Of course, we're also mentioning the fact that the right to dignity can also be denied when a person is required to perform some communal services. If, for example, you live in an estate and every member of that estate is required to maybe carry out some, let's say, environmental sanitation, as the case may be, or some community service or community activity or actions. Can you, as a member of the community, now complain that your right to dignity has been taken away from you? The answer is no, because such activities is required, from members of that community to carry out for the betterment of the community. So this is another instance where, the right to liberty or the right to dignity can also be denied. Another instance where, we can talk about is when there is a court judgment or a sentence of courts. When the court requires that some certain punishment should be meted out on maybe somebody who has been convicted of a crime, can that convict now complain that the punishment is undignifying? The answer is no. That is another instance, that the law has also made an exception to that right that has been provided for under Section 34. We've had series of instances where, you as a citizen can complain or make a formal complaint that your right to dignity has been violated. A popular instance is when probably somebody is suspected of a crime, is arrested by the police, and then is put through very horrendous, conditions just to extract, a confessional statement from that person. So in such an instance, that person, because he is a suspect, and the mere fact that he has been suspected of a crime does not remove this right. This does not remove, his right to enjoy this provision. A suspect is still protected on that law, and therefore such a person should not be subjected to any form of inhuman or degrading treatment. There are certain provisions even in our criminal procedure law, that guarantees that the person should be respected, should be put in very, very human situation, so that it's not related to any form of mental torture. So such persons can still enjoy and benefit from this right, so long as he has not been convicted of any crime. So the police often, we often see instances where this right is violated when they beat up suspects, they chain them or handcuff them, and then in very compromising situations. That ought not to be. So we've had instances where persons after going through these experiences can go to court and get this right enforced, as the case may be. So, like we have mentioned, the right to dignity is endures in favor of every citizen of Nigeria, except in the exceptions that we have also highlighted as provided by the constitution. Other than that, nobody is allowed to subject if fellow human beings, not even animals, to inhuman or degrading treatment. Another very important aspect that we also need to also bring, that may be a version of this section, is we've had this of like very prevalent in places like Benin or Edo, is human trafficking. Victim of human trafficking can also come under this provision to seek to enforce their right against their traffickers. If, for example, you are smuggled out of the country, you are illegally you're trafficked from one place to another to go and be involved in forced labor. Let's say a young person is taken from, let's say, Nigeria to some European country to go and be involved in forced labor. That person, upon realization that he has been trafficked, can pursue this under these provisions, can pursue a legal remedy against the traffickers to say that he was subjected to forced labor, he was subjected to some unwarranted servitude, and therefore that act of being subjected to labor is a violation of his right to human dignity. So we have had instances where the court have had to enforce that right, to protect the citizen against the trafficker, as the case may be. So these are some of the instances where the citizen can go to court and get this right enforced.